I heard one of the producers, a room full of producers, and I heard one of the producers say, "Ugh, I don't know why everyone thinks they can act," out loud.
Woo.
Have you heard of the tiara syndrome? It's when you work really hard and you keep your head down and you wait for someone else to crown you, but you need to lift your head up and crown yourself. And
Another first. Look at
first.
you. You're watching and listening to In Proximity. I'm Paola Mardo, and today I'm talking to a real-life superhero. Azie Tesfai is an actor, writer, and producer. She is the first Eritrean and Ethiopian person to play a superhero on screen. She was the Guardian on the CW's SUPERGIRL TV series, executive produced by Greg Berlanti. She also wrote an episode of that show and is one of the few actors turned writer-producers. Azie is no stranger to being the first of many things as the child of immigrants and as someone who's on track to being a lawyer before she pivoted into acting. On this episode, Azie talks about how she navigated imposter syndrome, learned how to ask for help and slide into DMs for work, and how she balances being an actor, writer, and producer, all while infusing a little bit of her heritage into the stories she tells. Here's my conversation with Azie Tesfai. Azie Tesfai, welcome to In Proximity.
Yay.
Thanks for joining me today. Before we start the actual conversation, we have a little icebreaker that we're going to start with. And we found someone to send you a surprise question.
Oh my
via
gosh.
voice memo. And I'm going to play it. You're going to guess who it is. And then you will answer the question. Are you ready?
Yeah, don't make me cry. Okay.
Okay. Let me turn it up. And here we go.
Well. Hello, neighbor. When are we going to start on Deep in the Dell? Wink, wink.
Tony, aka Two Chainz.
AKA your neighbor.
AKA my neighbor. I can't believe you guys got him to leave a voice note. That's
sent us
such
a
a funny surprise. That was the last person. I thought it was going to be like my first grade teacher, so that threw
Oh my
me.
gosh. That's for next episode.
Yeah.
So he said, I don't even know if
my
I'm saying this
gosh.
right. When are we going to start on Deep in the Dell? Wink, wink. What is that?
We have a show idea.
Ooh, are you? Can you talk about it?
We live in a very crazy neighborhood, and we have a group chat, not a group chat. The group chat's him and I, and we text about the things in our neighborhood. And I like to think that we're like neighborhood watch, and we know everything that goes down. And so we joke that we should make a TV show about it. Random producers around town will come up to me and be like, "So are you and Two Chainz or Tony really going to do your?" And so
I love that.
I'm very thrown off. I did not expect that to be him.
Yeah, Azie, thanks for being here. Really excited to talk to you. I mean, you've been in proximity to proximity for quite a bit now, and we'll get into some of that later. But first, I want to reach a little deeper in the past and just talk about your growing up. So I feel like you have a really interesting story. Tell me about young Azie. What was she like as a kid?
I got the most talkative in class every single year. Couldn't sit still, which I think that those kids are all kind of creatives now. The ones who always got like, doesn't sit down, can't focus, talks too much. I've always have been really close with my mom. I was raised by immigrant parents. My mom was like a magical immigrant mother who told me I could do anything at a very young age, as long as I worked really hard and focused and put my mind to it, that truly anything was possible. And I think that childhood belief system that was imparted on me changed my life.
Oh, I love that. Did you act or write or do any of the
No,
arts?
I thought I was going to be a lawyer.
Oh, wow.
Well, so here's the thing. Children of immigrants, which I know you understand, doctor, lawyer, or engineer is kind of what your parents tell you your whole life because they escaped war for you to do better than them. And better is a steady job, which, I went in the opposite direction. So I thought I was going to be a corporate lawyer for a long time. And then I interned with one and realized that I would be better served as like a human rights lawyer.
I'm curious if that has to do with like your family story. I mean, you're the first person in your family to be born in the US. What's it like being the first generation born here?
There's a pressure in it that I maybe look back on as an adult that I didn't realize as a small kid. I think my mom and my family did a good job of kind of sheltering me from it. But I definitely now look back, and when you're the first of something, you don't want to mess up. And if you do mess up, that could affect the how it goes for the rest of your family. And so I think I was very type A. This is like therapy now. Now that I look back on it, I'm sure that my type A personality and an overachiever personality came from wanting to create more opportunities even within the family and not mess up an opportunity from my mom and dad.
Tell me about the places you grew up in, though, because you were born here, but you also moved back to Ethiopia and Eritrea, I believe. Did you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I was raised in Los Angeles, and I think, you know, the wonderful thing about my mom is I think she knew that if I grew up just in LA, that I would probably not be her ideal child.
What does that mean?
Trying to be politically correct. No. Right. We're so lucky in Los Angeles, and I think there's so much abundance and opportunity and possibility, and it's a land of dream, and to grow up, and it is a really beautiful thing, actually, to be born and raised here. But, you know, what you're exposed to is what you know. And at a very young age, my mom took me to Ethiopia for the first time.
How old were you?
11.
Oh, wow.
And all of my family was still there. It was a very overwhelming feeling at that age to see pretty much at that time, everyone else in my family live in a country that was so beautiful in a lot of ways, but also had a lot less advantages than we have here. I remember this moment that just pops into my mind of like, I'm 11 and my 6-year-old cousin going to drink water. We were playing outside from the fountain and I went to go drink it after her, and my aunt yelled because it would make me sick. And then I looked and the water was brown. And so I was like, well, why can my little 6-year-old cousin have this and I can't? And so at a very young age, I think I was just aware that there were things that felt deeply unfair, even in the family dynamic. And so my mom at a young age imparted like, well, what are you going to do about it? And so I always felt like the blessing of kind of being between two worlds was like, how do I figure out how to like blend these and make one maybe help the other in some way? And then I went to a French high school that was in LA, that was an international school that was also in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
Just going back to that whole, you know, being first generation and like the pressure. I mean, you were also like, you said type A.
Yeah. I mean, I've just come to terms with it.
But you were also like, you went to high school in Ethiopia, but then got into a bunch of Ivy League schools.
So I went to school here. I went to international school, French school that was here, but also was there.
Gotcha.
And then, yes, I was the kid that was like all the extracurricular activities, prom queen, president of the school, 4.3 GPA. I was it probably was like not healthy. And again, it's, you know, the immigrant parent thing of like, there was no tutor that they wouldn't hire. And no, it's like your whole job is to do well in school so that you have the most opportunity. And my mom especially really felt like education was like freedom to everything. And so she's like, this is the thing. This is the thing you need to focus on. And so I really, probably because I felt the pressure of it, but really like superseded, I think, expectations.
And you were prom queen and class president.
I mean, I peaked.
My goodness.
I peaked then,
How can you top that?
I don't know.
Then you went to Berkeley. You went to Cal. Why have we not talked about this? I grew up partially in the Bay, so I know. What?
Well, it's like working with you guys, you have to kind of be Bay forward.
Bay forward.
I walked in with my Berkeley.
Okay,
like,
you wore the Cal sweatshirt? Or?
I should have. That would have been smart, but
Yeah. What was your major?
I did business. Which was like, I'm going to go to law school, but I think I did business because there was a piece of me that was like, I don't know if I want to do this, but I'm too scared to say I don't want to do it yet. So business felt like no matter where I pivot, I'll use it.
Yeah. So at one point, did you find acting?
Okay, so here, I'm going to, I don't know if I've ever actually said this. I'm like feeling free. I don't know if it's the heat today or what, but my senior year of college, I was doing my... I'm laughing because I've never said this, but I was doing my thesis essentially in like studying postmodern society. Don't know why. And I went through like my first heartbreak and my first like love breakup. And I thought, as most do, that I was going to die. Like I went to bed and I was like, oh, I'm going to die from a broken heart. And my best friend growing up was an actress, like got an opportunity to kind of audition for something.
She was a professional, like working TV actress?
Yeah, film, TV. Film. Okay. Mainly film.
Down in LA?
And so I was like, normally I would never do that opportunity, but I was like so excited to get out of Berkeley, to have a break. And so I was like, I'll come to LA for an audition.
And what was the role?
It was a Nickelodeon something where I played like a surfer party. I mean, it was like, did not require talent. I'll just say that.
Surfer party girl?
Pretty much. Yeah. And I got it.
What?
But my mom was like, you're not dropping out of college for a career you just thought about yesterday. You're going to finish your degree. But it was like enough to get me like a manager and then.
Wow. So you excelled at that too.
I fell into it by luck. And then I always say it was like easy in the beginning. And then when I committed to wanting to be an actor, then it became hard because it was like, oh, you want it, now earn it. Right. But it felt very serendipitous that it worked out the way it did. And then I was really just going to take a year before law school to do it. That was kind of the
like you were just going to do it for a year and then go into the real world or whatever.
Yeah. And then go take my LSAT and go to law school.
Yeah. But then what made you not do that?
So my first job that I got shortly after I graduated was, this is crazy and this never happens, but it was a series regular. I shot like, I think 60 episodes of like a show that filmed in San Diego. It was with Tatum O'Neal. And I was like, this is the best job in the whole world. And I got to live on the beach with my dog and the cast was really fun. And I'm like, if this is acting.
Wow. Wait, what was the show?
It was called Wicked Games.
Okay. Cool. And what did you play on Wicked Games?
It was like a soapy drama.
But I feel like that's where a lot of actors, especially starting out, tend to like, you know, hone your chops.
It was boot camp.
Because it's,
yeah. And we did like, so they wrote 60 episodes and then they gave them to you on the first day and we shot by location. So we shot for a year 60 episodes, but you would do like, okay, we're shooting the nightclub scene. So it's episode 1, episode 24, episode 56. Like
all the nightclub scenes?
We shot it like a film.
Wow.
And so we would do, I think like 17 pages a day. And so it was like a boot camp, but I loved it. And my first, I will say this, my first day of work, I remember I was like, how did I get here? How did this, which tends to be the way that I operate. Like I kind of naively go into things and then once it's starting, I panic. And I remember an exec, I think it was Fox Studios that was overseeing it, came up to me on set and was like, we're so happy to have you. And I turned around and I just threw up because I was so nervous. And he was like, all right, well, have a great first shoot day. I was like, I'm an actor.
Oh, man, I love it. Yeah. I love it. That's an incredible story.
I try not to overthink things until I'm in it. And then
then you vomit.
Then you vomit and you have to deliver because you're under contract. That is the key.
So when you started really committing to acting, how did your parents take that?
Not good. My dad was very against it. My mom didn't understand it, but then once she realized how passionate I was about it, I think she fell back on her, you can do anything. I mean, and actually the moments where I wanted to quit, my mom was really the person, which was surprising because I think she would have preferred for me to go to law school because that made sense to tell family and friends. It was a tangible career path. And they're like, how's Azie doing? Oh, she's at this law firm versus like, she's filming a soap in San Diego. But my mom is like, we don't quit. And so that mentality, I think, superseded the confusion of the career choice.
Yeah. She's like, you chose this.
Yeah. If you're going to leave, you leave doing it, not struggling.
Yeah. You know, acting, I feel like is such it's like a hard profession. And I mean, I haven't said this. Well, for those who know me, I did musical theater and theater growing up.
Oh my gosh.
Actually, one of my earliest dreams was to be an MTV VJ. This is pre-podcast.
I actually could totally in our
like. Do you see your set? No.
Yes, I could totally see you being an MTV VJ.
But I got into, because that's all, you know, when you're in high school or even before that, like that's all you have, like acting. No one tells you about directing or producing, like those jobs, the behind the camera jobs. I got into acting. I loved the craft of it. I actually preferred like the acting more than the musical theater, but I just loved musical theater just as a viewer. But the more as I got older, I started to realize like maybe I'm not an actor because it really is a difficult craft. And then the audition process, having to go out, put yourself out there. I mean, you have to really want it. Yeah. And I wanted to tell stories and not in that way anymore when I got older. So I don't know, how did you sort of find that passion and hone it and like stick to it? Because it's like a sport almost.
It is a sport. You have to be, the endurance and the resilience is pretty necessary to do it. Yeah. I had someone tell me early on, only do this if you are okay doing local theater and never really making it by society standards. Like only do it if you really love the art of it, because then everything else is a bonus. And I think that shift of mindset for me really helped, because then I was just like, I love it. Like I love the process of creating and being a character. And if that's an audition, then it's an audition, but that I get to play in that moment. If that's a play, it's a play. And so then any TV thing or film project was like a cherry on the ice cream sundae. And I didn't actually have the expectation of it. So I think that was always a good mindset. Like if you at the end of your life were like, I just was a creative and I maybe didn't get the recognition or any accolades from it or any attention from it or great financial gain, would you still feel like you went after the thing and you'd be happy? And for me, it was yes. So
was there a moment where you were like, because also it's such a subjective profession. Do you have like, I don't want to say like lows in your acting life, but like were there moments, especially when you were first starting out, like where you started to question like, oh, maybe I should go to law school?
I have this audition story that is so awful. I went in for, we'll just call it a franchise procedural show that doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
And I had such a good audition in the morning with the casting directors. I was like, oh, I feel good. It was like not even a big role. So to play like nurse number 2, right? But nurse number 2 had a lot of medical things to say. And then they were like, oh, this was great. Like you're going to get this, come back in for the producers, just formality. And I came in and it was like there was something wrong with the lot and they get all the things. And then they were like, no, you have to park in this lot this time, which was like 10 extra minute walk and whatever. Things that got me a bit flustered. I came in and then I had to go straight in. I thought I had a minute. And I went in and I flubbed the first take. And casting was like, it's fine, let's do it again. And I heard one of the producers, a room full of producers, and I heard one of the producers say, ugh, I don't know why everyone thinks they can act, out loud.
Ooh.
And let's just say I never got the take right. Like I think I did it like 3 or 4 more times and I couldn't. And I think I said, I'm just gonna go. And it was so degrading and embarrassing. And I took in someone else's, and I never saw their face. It's like you're in this room doing an audition and it's like dark and then the light's on you. Yeah. But I could hear them clear as day. And that was probably and I just remember going in the car and crying and being like, what am I doing this for? And those kind of people are not why we make art. The critical and the cruel at the end of the day, because I was like just a kid trying to get a guest star. Yeah. But that was definitely a moment where I'm like, I love the art of it, but I don't know if I like the business of it.
Man, I'm sorry that happened to you. And
that's okay. It made me better.
Yeah, but the business sucks. Yeah. Or can suck,
Yeah, and I think people don't ever talk about like the embarrassing moments along the journey, and everybody has them. And I think the more that we can kind of normalize that it's hard and in those moments, you're not the one that should be feeling shameful. For anyone that is auditioning and has had someone be rude to them in moments where you like did all this work and prepared it and you're kind of going in to be vulnerable, like don't let them take that away from you. And I'm like speaking this as if I wish I had told myself that then,
It's really valuable to hear, especially from you as someone who's been on this acting journey for quite a while now. Because I was going to ask you if you have advice for like actors coming in at this moment.
I can't imagine. I was on a show for a long time during COVID and then after. And so this whole self-taping era
different.
That we're in post-COVID is I can't imagine starting right now.
Can you explain a little bit for people who don't really know like acting and what that was?
Yeah, everything's remote. I mean, even on the writing side, right? Like, so in terms of acting, you would be auditioning in the room. You'd get to know casting directors. If you didn't get the role, but they loved your personality, or they were like, we got to know you a bit, so we're going to bring you in for something else. So many roles I booked were relationships that the audition wasn't the thing, but I got something else. And then on the writing side, pitching in the room is similar. You go in, you like have a relationship with someone. They felt your energy and your vibe. You were able to like have a real connection, and everything is moved to digital. So auditions are all self-tape sent in. Pitches are all on Zoom. You have a tight window with pitches. They don't buffer as much time. And so that human connection is lost. And so it's hard because it almost everything has to be more perfect.
So you started as an actor, lawyer to actor to writer. Can we talk about that? And before we do, actually, because we've had conversations about being the first of things. You've talked about this to me a few times. And I mean, I wrote down some of your firsts. First Ethiopian or Eritrean person to play a superhero on television. First actor to ever write an episode for a CW show. And specifically for a Greg Berlanti show, SUPERGIRL. Am I missing any other firsts? I feel like there were others in the...
Probably.
But those are big. Those are big. I mean, when you look back, you're like, I did that. Do you like feel a sense of pride, or are you like, how did I do that? Or
I think I just never want to, this is my own maybe neuroses, but I never want to mess up so that there's not more behind me, or I always want to make sure I do the best I can. So they're like, we should give more opportunities to whatever I'm being the first of. And that's always felt really important to me. But yeah, I think never having an example of, from my culture specifically, of anyone that was doing anything in the creative, that feels super important to me in terms of like, there's other things we can do. And I know I can say that, but it's maybe valuable if I do it and then speak on it. And then I always try to do like talks and things, especially with like Eritrean and Ethiopian creatives, to be like, what do you want to do? And like, let's figure out how to do it.
So when you were acting, you played a role on Supergirl, Kelly Olsen, who then became Guardian. Well, there's the acting side to it, but then I want to ask about how you decided to, I don't even know how it worked. How did you end up writing that episode? Because actors don't normally show up in the writer's room and like write an episode of TV. Like how did you find the courage to do that, honestly?
I think I just was pretty burnt out with acting. And I had pivoted once before. There was a couple years where I quit acting and ran a nonprofit accessories line, and then went back and did Jane the Virgin. And so I was kind of used to, when I was feeling not fulfilled, to stop versus just pushing past it. I think I have a lot of flaws, but the one thing I'm proud of is that I pivot when something doesn't feel right. I've never been scared to kind of pivot, or I have been scared, but I'll push through it. Yeah. And so I think towards Supergirl, I definitely was like, it was a grind. And
it was like 6 seasons.
And like 20 something episodes. And being a superhero is like the coolest thing ever, but it's so hard.
It's hard. I mean, I don't even know what it's like. So you tell me.
It's really hard. and you have to do stunt training, and then you have to shoot, and then you have to go to train to do for fight scenes. And I just didn't realize that I naively, again, was like, oh, my super suit's so cool. This is gonna be so awesome. And it is a grind. And so I think I just got to the place where I was really exhausted. And one of my best friends on the show is in transpo, and her name's Terrell. She would joke that I would start just like going to work in my pajamas, and she was like, how are we doing? I was like, I just kind of like, I'm here, I'm gonna do. And I had lost the kind of fire. My co-star in it, Kyler Lee, and I were very passionate about the characters that we were playing on it together. And we really dissected the material and wanted to make sure we honored our fans. We had specific fans on that show it meant a lot to them. And so I just became, in the beginning, I was very passive, where I'm like, it's, that it's not my job. And then I was like, no, this is my responsibility. And I think I really leaned into that, like more and more and more every season. And then by our last season, the pandemic really allowed space for me to be like, I really want to write a sample episode just to kind of show this like incredible, and Superhero was a Black queer superhero, psychologist, brilliant, like all of these intersections that I was so honored to represent, that I wanted to do her right. And so I'm like, let me see if I can do this by showing instead of like telling or complaining or anything like that. Yeah.
Can you, like, for those who haven't seen it, can you explain a little bit about what that episode was? And
it was post-pandemic, which incorporated George Floyd and a lot of, I think, trauma coming up for a lot of people, especially Black folks, and written a sample during the pandemic that had kind of similar sentiments to it.
So you just wrote it on your own. You're like, I'm going to write basically a spec script for Supergirl. Yeah. Focused on my character, or like
well, so our showrunners are really great about telling us like the end of the season, what's coming up, and then the beginning of the season. So we have a really clear idea of what they're doing with our characters and generally. So I knew what was happening, and so I tried to kind of, which, that script did not get made. It was what got me to the writer's room.
Yeah, so how can you explain how that, were you like, hey, showrunner, here's
here's the real. I had gone through a lot of grief right before the pandemic. I had lost my dog suddenly in like a freak accident. One of my closest friends passed away in a car accident. And then a week later was a pandemic. So I had like heavy grief. I got into really intense kind of therapy, trauma therapy. And I started writing more just to kind of cope with the big feelings of not just dealing with immense grief, but then also being in lockdown with it, which how do you navigate that? I was in a different country. I ended up coming back to LA, but at the time I was still in Vancouver. We shot in Vancouver, Canada. They shut down the border pretty quickly. So there was no coming in and out of the country. And so writing became kind of a fuel for me in that. And then as we went through the pandemic, more emotional things happened, I think, with police brutality and George Floyd. And then there was, for me, a lot of experiences, particularly as an actress, with hair and makeup that I didn't realize was racist. And I knew it was racist. I didn't realize how racist it was, the things that I had been put throughout the years in terms of being in the hair and makeup trailer. And I know a lot of actresses talk about it, and it has gotten a lot better. But there's so much that you realize later is like very degrading as a Black actress in our industry that you can be subjected to in that trailer based because of your hair texture or your skin color. And so I was unpacking a lot of that in real time. And so writing became an outlet for me emotionally. And then I called the Jane the Virgin showrunner, who I'm really close with, and was kind of talking through a lot of it with her. I was very lost. Like, this did not come out of an empowering place. It came out, which I'm realizing now, a lot of my art comes from really broken places, actually. When I'm good, I don't make great things. When I'm pretty rock bottom, that's when I think everything I've sold or made has come out of that place. And she was like, I had this idea, and she was like, let's develop it together. And so I actually started developing a show with her based on a life experience of mine. And that was a very therapeutic experience. And I didn't write it. We brought on a writer that was one of the writers on Jane the Virgin, but she's such a genius that we did mini rooms together, kind of, where we were breaking story and pilot, and I was learning how to pitch. And I was in every single session, and I was like, oh, wow, like crafting story is so incredible. And that gave me the fire to then want to telling the story can be a very proactive way of fixing some of the misrepresentations in society or in self. You have more power behind the lens. And so I hired a writing coach, like a nerd. And I'm going to be honest with you, the writing coach was awful.
I may have heard about this.
We're friends. I told me how hard writing is, told me like it's going to be 20 sessions and like so much money.
Like $1 million.
$1 million. And I was like, oh, I knew I wasn't meant to be. Writing's so hard. That's whenever someone comes up to me and they're like, it's too hard to do. I'm like, I say no, it is hard, but because I don't want you to not stop because it's hard. I don't want you to not start because it's hard. And then my friend Megan, who's an incredible writer and showrunner, happened to call me to see like, hey, are you crying today? Because it's the pandemic. How are you doing? And I was like, I cried this morning. I'm great. How are you? And I'm like, I just had this call with this writing coach and I thought I could do it, but I can't. She was like, you can do it. And she's like a very established writer and showrunner and has a show on Hulu. And she was like, I'm going to connect you with someone in the writer's room. In my writer's room, because it's pandemic and you can pay them what you want. And so me and this writer made an agreement, and they made it fun. And we'd meet a couple times a week. I would write material. She would give me notes. She was like, you really just got to learn structure. Yeah. And then I fell in love. And so it was like the source of like learning came from a very positive. And then I was like, I want to write. None of it came from me.
I think it did. It did.
It came from like a supportive community mixed with trauma. Trauma plus supportive community equals art.
Well, you sound like an artist. Well, going back to the writing real quick too, starting is hard, but being consistent, I feel like is also harder. How do you stay consistent even now to continue that writing habit?
Yeah. Even then, think I was going to be a writer. I was very lucky to have Greg Berlanti as a producer on SUPERGIRL. And he did get on a Zoom with me, which I thought when I got the text, it was like a prank person. And he read the script and he was like, so you're a writer, how do we support you? And I was like, no, I'm not a writer. I wrote an episode. He was like, okay, reframe that. You're a writer. And I was like, I'm a baby writer. He was like, take the word baby out. You're a writer.
Love that.
And I kept saying thank you. And he was like, you say it once. And then he was like, well, what do you want? And I was nervous. And he was like, you can be confident in what you want. And like all of these little micro lessons. And so I was like, you know, it's like practicing the mirror. I joke being a superhero, you have like, for DC at least, we had like superhero poses, like hands on the hips, arms crossed, feet. They're just power poses, really, when you think about it.
Is this like in a book or something that you're supposed to learn?
Well, we just knew. So like when we had group superhero scenes, we were like, which one are you doing? So we wouldn't all do the same one, but they're essentially power poses. And so people would think like, oh, your suit made you confident. Yes. It's like, no, your superhero stance makes you confident, which is chin up, shoulders back, chest out, legs shoulder length apart, which grounds you. And so it was, you know, it's like that kind of helps you fake it till you make it in a weird way. And so with the writing, I was like, okay, I'm going to say these words that this person who I respect so much as like a forced mentor is telling me to say, but I don't believe it.
Reframe that as a mentor.
As a mentor. See, he would say the same thing. But I was like, I didn't believe it at first. But then the crazy thing is, he was like, start asking people for things and you'll be surprised how they say yes.
Yes.
And then
Snaps to that.
around the same time, I had a Susan Rovner, who was at Warner Brothers at the time. We were dealing with some work thing, and she was like, I don't mean to be overstep, but have you heard of the tiara syndrome? And I was like, tiara syndrome? What's that? And she was like, it's when you work really hard and you keep your head down and you wait for someone else to crown you, but you need to lift your head up and crown yourself.
Ooh.
And I was like, oh, I have that. She was like, I know. And so then I was like, she was like, try asking. And so she was kind of my first ask of something. And then I started asking people, can I pitch you? Or I would start DMing old writers from shows I worked on, like, hey, can I pitch?
I'm taking notes right now. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Can I pitch you an idea? Which sliding into the DMs for me is for work.
I love that.
I was sliding into DMs of people I worked with 8 years ago, and they would answer. It may take a while, but they were like, this is wild. But here's my number. You want to call me and pitch your idea? Like,
sick.
And people in the beginning especially were like, yeah. And I couldn't believe it.
But I have to say, you also have to have the drive and you have to be good. And I'm not saying like you have to be perfect at it, but I feel like you had the drive and you work really hard. You have the ethic. If you didn't have that.
I had the idea then.
An idea. Yeah.
I didn't know how necessarily, but I had the idea. And thanks to the support of those people that were like, just start asking, I started asking for help, which is like, as an immigrant child, as a woman, we don't So hard. There was a script that I had written that I really wanted to do. And I had mentioned it to Greg and he was like, let's do it. Let's see it. And I was like, it's not ready. And I held on to this precious thing. And someone at the CW was like, we'd love to see it. And then, you know, the network fell apart. And I just was like, I read it recently and I was like, oh, it was good. Like, why didn't you just, you know? And so now I'm like, don't make that mistake again.
Do you feel like it was perfectionism or something? Or
I think as women, many times we feel like we need to do things 20 times to to be given the first chance.
Right.
Like I have another friend who created a show and wanted to direct it, and she waited 3 seasons. And there were directors coming in who had never done it before and it wasn't even their show. But she's like, I need to shadow one more time. Or it's that need of us feeling like we have to be so ready versus like, it's okay if we jump in and we make mistakes.
Yep.
And so I think like once I got that, I was like, I'm not totally ready, but I have these ideas. And I just wrote 1-pagers. And I wrote these 1-pagers. I asked, you know, Berlanti Productions at the time was like my home kind of. I'd been working with them for so long. And then I had Jenny Erman, who I'd worked with for so long. And I was like, can you send me samples of pitches?
Asked for that.
Of old pitches.
Wow.
And then I just studied them. And then I just literally matched them with my idea.
Yeah.
And then I would give those to writers that I wanted to work with.
Amazing.
Yeah, fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it. Slide into those DMs.
Say thank you once.
Yes. Don't slide into DMs for work purposes.
I mean, you can slide into DMs for whatever you want, but it really, really, and I've had writers now message me and be like, hey, my showrunner's doing a project with you and they say that you slid into his DMs. What was the wording you used?
I love that.
Just ask. The worst they'll say is no.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. I've learned that too.
Yeah.
May have gotten your voice memo through that.
Yeah.
Anyways, last little things.
Amazing.
Talk a little bit about your process too, because acting, writing, directing, balancing all of that, like, you know, how do you structure your days? Like, what are some sort of tips you can give people? You know, who want to, like, who are multi-hyphenates or who just are trying to do a lot of things? Because right now you kind of have to do a little bit of everything.
A lot.
Right?
Yeah. I think I have like, and not most of it's not announced yet, but I think I have like 8 things in development right now, which is kind of unbelievable.
Exciting.
And I'm doing like a book project and I'm doing unscripted. And I'm acting, I'm fully back into acting. And so I recently, in the last like month, so this is like a new, I guess, tip that I've learned from other people that I admire that I'm integrating. I'm trying to the best I can block out like a half a day or a day for a project. So what I used to do was I would have Zooms all day. I would try to block out like acting time versus like producing writing time. But then I would get up and do a Zoom at 8 a.m. for one project, do one at 9 for another project. It was too scattered for me. And sometimes I still have to do that. But I'm really trying to do like, if I'm doing a certain project, I'll do the Zoom in the morning and then I'll block out time to write for it or do whatever I need to do for that specific project while I'm in the mindset, and then do an afternoon for something different. So I really try to do a block of time, or ideally like a day. Like I'm working on this book. I did a day the other day just from start to finish. Any meetings that came up, I was able to rearrange. And then for acting, I block out. Like if it's an audition or if I'm filming, like I block out a day to just kind of like get into it and focus.
Got it. So you've been writing a book.
I have been.
Can you talk about what it's about?
Yeah. So I am writing a DC, it's so crazy, a DC comic kids book. They're doing kids for the first time.
Another first. Look at you. Okay,
yeah.
Snaps.
Yeah.
Yes. Exciting.
It's really exciting. I just kind of locked my draft like yesterday. So, and have an awesome illustrator. And another first that is really exciting is I made the main character Ethiopian. So it's the first time an Ethiopian character has ever been featured in DC history, which is going to be very cool.
Wow.
And she's a little girl. And so that just, I mean, it makes me emotional because I'm like, oh, I wish I had this when I was little. And I don't know, maybe I just make art for little Azie in some weird way. Yeah. But yeah, so I'm very excited. I got all the good superheroes. They were very generous and
that's amazing. Some people like, if they ever got into a position where you're in, like acting, producing, writing, like culture isn't always something, I guess, put at the forefront of people's work, if that makes sense. But why is that still so important to you even now?
You know, when I was like in kindergarten, I grew up in first gen kids where like we grew up essentially in full cultural households. And I was so proud of my culture. And then I went to kindergarten and I remember one of the first days of school is this kid asked me where I was from. And I was like, oh, I'm Eritrean and Ethiopian. No one knew where Eritrea was. But he was like, Ethiopia? That's a place with the kids with the distended bellies and the flies around their face. And he started laughing and everyone started making fun of me. And I had so much like shame. And it was like, I had been so proud of the complexities of my culture. And I think for the first time, I was embarrassed by it. And I'm sad to say that it lasted years. So then I just didn't say that I was from where I was from. I think people would ask if I was like mixed race or this or that. And I would just say yes and not. I denied my identity for a chunk of time. I just look back on that time and I feel like if I had some sort of example or there was something in the media it's still my passion because many people still only think of Ethiopia with that very wrong perspective, because that's the only thing that's been shown. And
in the media.
In the media, yeah. Even then like pitching the project that I've been doing with Proximity, like there were execs that were Black execs that were like, I'm embarrassed to admit this, but I actually know that that's not what Ethiopia is like, but I don't have a visual that's replaced it in my mind. So I still only see that image. And I'm like, I get it. Like our visual representation of what we think something is based on what we've seen in movies and television shows and the power that has. So for me, I was like, I never want a young girl from any culture, but especially from my culture to feel the shame that I felt for probably a decade to be where I was from and to want to feel small and invisible. Like I love my culture and like it has its complexities and it's, still a developing country, but like there's so much beauty and depth and history and culture and it's never been colonized and all this cool stuff that people don't know. And so if I can highlight that in everything that I do, even if it's tiny and small and it's a character name that is of the culture or a little restaurant that I walk out of or, establishing a character in a comic, franchise book, it's important to me because I know that hasn't shifted yet. And so if I can give my little piece of doing that, then I think it like feels like it's my purpose in why I'm here maybe.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Now we've come to the moment of our show where we're going to look at some pieces of your work and you're going to talk through it.
Oh my God.
You sent us some photos.
Oh, yes.
So,
photos, yeah.
yes. No, don't worry. It's not another voice memo from another neighbor.
I'm still thrown from the voice memo. So, voice note.
That's what it's there for. No, I'm kidding. I'm just going to pull it up. I have it here on my laptop. I will bring it up. We'll start with this one. Could you describe it for those who are listening to this podcast, what we're looking at?
Yeah. So I got the first episode that I wrote, I was able to write during Christmas break, but then I got notes from the studio and the network, which is the process of television. But I was actually fully filming on set and doing stunts. And so I would write on set between stunt sequences. I would get my notes and then I think I might have an earpiece in that one doing a notes call actually with Warner Brothers at the time.
So your superhero helmet?
I would put my AirPod in my superhero helmet so that I could hear Warner's notes and then I was doing them in real time while I was on set.
It's incredible.
And it would be incredible because it'd be like an explosion and they're like, is everything okay? I'm like, yeah, it's fine. So you'd like me to change scene 2? What was the note?
Yeah. So for those who are watching, we'll obviously put the photo on screen, but those who are listening, it's Azie in her Guardian superhero outfit with a full-on helmet on, the gold, embellishments, leather pants, leather outfit, and then she's got a little iPad situation, and she's literally on set taking a meeting. In full costume.
Yeah. Yeah. It's also cool to get notes when you're in a super suit.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
This is like a power move, honestly.
Maybe,
it's like
yeah.
you show up, you're like...
I can do this.
Yeah.
I'm wearing a super suit.
You're like, how many notes do you have?
Yeah.
There's one more.
That was the set that we built that my character walks out of. My mom's name is Mulu, but her nickname is Salamawit. And so I had it called Salamawit's Ethiopian because it was my mom's dream her whole life to open a restaurant. And she took that money and put it into my education, all of it. She put everything. She had multiple jobs and she always would reference like, if I'd had that restaurant. And so I made the restaurant for her in the way that I could, which is in writing. And it was like very full circle that my first episode writing and for television was honoring my mom who sacrificed so much to give me everything I have. And my showrunners didn't know this till way later, but I actually let my mom approve all the art designs. I would text it to her.
Oh my gosh.
And so they gave me 4 choices. So she designed her own restaurant on the show. Yeah. And so
and
little
it's on
things,
TV forever.
But it was literally, I would be on set and I would send my mom and I'd be like, Mom, you need to answer now. She'd be like, I like the first, or no, those are not. These are the dishes. And
this is the first scene that your character comes out. She walks out of the
first scene of the first thing I've ever written in my life.
That's
is
amazing.
in honor of my mom.
Yeah, she steps out of
and
this restaurant. $9.99, $11.99. I'm just looking at the prices.
Oh yeah.
Good deals.
It's
Good deals.
It's affordable. We want people to know. Go to your local Ethiopian restaurant.
Oh, please do.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Support.
Prox Recs.
One more fun segment for you.
Okay.
We call this Prox Recs.
Oh.
Prox recommendations.
Okay.
And we ask our guests on the show to recommend something for our listeners and viewers. It can be anything related to what you do, or honestly, just anything you want to recommend.
Yeah.
And what do you have a recommendation, a Prox Rec for the audience?
So when I was, I don't want anyone to think that I took a course over a pandemic, and then when I sold my first thing, which I did it kind of, I sold something with proximity. And then at the same time, I sold a show to NBC that I was writing by myself with no producers. I was thrown in the deep end. I had no business doing that project, but they liked the idea enough and they were like, you're writing it. I took night classes. So I was I did not act for about 1.5 years. I quit all other work and I signed up for UCLA. This is not a plug. They are not paying me. I tell anyone close to me this, so I'm like, why have I never said this publicly? UCLA extension classes. They have a screenwriting program. It's meant for people that have jobs and careers. You can do it at night or on the weekends.
Amazing.
On Zoom. I learned the real nitty gritty screenwriting structure stuff in that class. I give credit to my first network pilot that I did on my own because I had the structure of that class. Wow. So I'd be writing my pilot for Universal during the day and then taking the classes at night to make sure I was doing it right at night. But it was I figured it out and I delivered. It taught me outline and story area structure and dialogue and re-breaking things and second drafts and third drafts in a way that I didn't feel like I had to be the newbie, even though I was a newbie. I'd like to come as prepared as possible. And so anytime someone's I have an idea, I'm here's the secret. do UCLA Extension. I recommend it, and it gives you a second set of eyes on your work.
Great advice. Great advice to end on. Thanks for doing this, Azie. Thanks for being in proximity.
This is like what we do normally. We're just doing it with lights.
I know. And our set.
And our view.
In Proximity is a production of Proximity Media. The show is hosted, directed, and produced by Paola Mardo. Executive producers are Ryan Kugler, Zinzi Kugler, and Sev Ohanian. Theme song and additional music by Ludwig Göransson. Patrick Apino is our co-director and director of photography. Ken Nana is our sound designer and mix engineer. The production team includes Brittany Brown, Isabella Miller, and Alexandria Santana. Follow us on social media at Proximity Media. For transcripts and more information, head to proximitymedia.com.